Every year, the world spends trillions of dollars on property insurance services. Modern megacities proudly rise with fireproof skyscrapers made of state-of-the-art materials, meticulously planned wide avenues, and firefighting systems capable of responding in under 5 minutes. We live in an illusion of absolute safety, believing that human civilization has completely mastered fire. But the truth is, the safety we enjoy today, the financial system that protects us from ruin, was all bought with the lives, tears, and devastation of thousands of people from 4 centuries ago. Imagine if, that night, Baker Thomas Fariner had simply been careful enough to pour an extra dipper of water into his red-hot oven. London could have become the largest mass grave in the history of the Industrial Revolution. Welcome to an alternate timeline, a parallel universe where the disaster did not happen in 1666, only to realize that, sometimes, the most devastating disaster is the greatest architect of human history. To answer this crazy hypothetical question, we cannot just sit and speculate. This time travel journey is built upon modern urban economic analysis reports, the ruthless rebuilding acts from the 17th century British Parliament, and the most profound historical counterfactual studies from leading architectural experts. Together, we will uncover the darkest truths of the past to outline a London that should have been. A London without the Great Fire, but carrying within it a seed of destruction tens of thousands of times more terrifying. Before 1666, London was not the magnificent capital of an empire. It was a planning nightmare, a giant, foul-smelling, wooden labyrinth, crammed with over 500,000 souls. Do not imagine picturesque wooden cottages, picture grotesque architectural masses, patched together with oak beams completely drained of moisture over centuries. To withstand the damp, foggy weather of England, residents coated their houses with countless layers of pitch and tar, highly flammable materials no different from modern gasoline. The streets were so narrow that the uppermost floors of facing houses, known as jetties, jutted out to almost touch each other. In the poorest slums, sunlight could never reach the ground. You could open a third-floor window and shake hands with the neighbor across the street. It was an oxygen-deprived, suffocating city, ready to explode. And in that dark labyrinth, death had already knocked before the fire could arrive. In 1665, the Great Plague, the Black Death, swept through the city, claiming the lives of over 100,000 people, which was 1/5 of London's population at the time. To this day, many people mistakenly believe and praise the 1666 fire as a divine cleansing, incinerating the disease-carrying rats and ending the plague. But historical truth is much harsher. Modern epidemiological studies have shown that the number of plague deaths had already dropped sharply during the cold winter before the fire occurred. Furthermore, the fire primarily burned down the commercial center and the residences of the elite, while the suburban slums, where rats and fleas were most concentrated, remained largely unharmed. The fire did not save London from the epidemic, it merely dealt another fatal blow to a city already exhausted and riddled with corpses. The night of September 2, 1666, at Thomas Fariner's small bakery on Pudding Lane. An orphaned spark fell onto a pile of dry straw and wood, amidst an unusually dry summer that had lasted for 10 months, coupled with strong easterly winds. However, the disaster might not have spiraled out of control had it not been for the utter stupidity and arrogance of the authorities. When the fire had only consumed a few houses, the Lord Mayor of London at the time, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, was awakened. Faced with a golden opportunity to order the demolition of neighboring houses to create a firebreak, he merely glanced at it, let out a long yawn, and uttered one of the most infamous curses in history, pish. A woman might piss it out. The short-sightedness of one individual signed a death warrant for an entire city. What unfolded over the next 4 days was nothing short of an apocalyptic vision. Temperatures reached 1,250 degrees Celsius, melting iron chains and door locks. The fire created its own weather system, a firestorm sucking surrounding air into its center, generating giant pillars of flame rising into the sky. Tens of thousands of people trampled over each other to flee, throwing their most precious possessions into the murky River Thames. Even pigeons were scorched in mid-air, their wings burned off as they plummeted down to the streets like hellish rain. When all efforts to extinguish the fire with leather buckets and splashed water proved futile, King Charles II had to personally order the use of gunpowder to blow up rows of houses, completely destroying them to save whatever was left. 4 days of devastation ended with 13,200 houses reduced to ashes, 87 churches leveled, and over 100,000 people left empty-handed standing amidst the ruins. However, in times of despair, humans always need a scapegoat. Blinded by panic and fierce xenophobia, Londoners could not accept that the economic center of the world was destroyed merely by a careless bakery oven. Malicious rumors spread faster than the fire. They blamed Catholics, French, and Dutch spies. The madness reached its peak when Robert Hubert, a mentally disabled French watchmaker, falsely confessed to throwing a fireball into the bakery just to gain attention. Despite the clear fact that Hubert had not even set foot in London at the time the fire broke out, a bloodthirsty mob and jury sentenced him to death. He was hanged at Tyburn, a tragic victim of a society desperately seeking revenge. The fire died out, leaving behind a massive void, and with it, a once-in-a-millennium, golden opportunity. The great polymath and architect Sir Christopher Wren submitted a utopian master plan to King Charles II. He wanted to turn London into a second Paris, a new Rome, with wide avenues, magnificent squares, and majestic monuments. It was a grand dream of the Age of Enlightenment. But that dream was crushed in its infancy, not by nature, but by the human nature of private ownership. Londoners steadfastly refused to yield even a single inch of their old foundations. They pitched temporary tents on the ashes, drove stakes to fight over every street corner, and threatened riots if the government dared to reroute the roads. Ultimately, the authorities had to back down. London was rebuilt upon the very crooked, distorted skeleton of the Middle Ages. However, that very ruin became fertile ground for one of the greatest inventions of modern finance: property insurance. Before 1666, a house fire meant the ruin of an entire family. Capitalizing on the extreme fear of the public, Nicholas Barbon, a physician turned real estate investor, founded the first fire office in 1681. Do not think of this as a compassionate community service. This was savage capitalism at its most extreme. To protect the properties they insured, these companies formed their own private fire brigades. They affixed brightly colored lead badges called fire marks to the walls of the houses that had paid their premiums. And what was the terrifying reality of this early development? If your house caught fire but did not have that company's fire mark on its wall, the fire brigade would calmly stand with their arms crossed and watch your fortune turn to ash. Even worse, when multiple fire brigades from different companies arrived at a scene, they would use axes to fight each other bloodily right on the street to claim the right to extinguish the fire, while the house continued to burn to the ground behind them. Cruel and controversial as it was, without the 1666 fire, this concept of large-scale risk-sharing might have been delayed for decades, and modern capital markets would never have taken the shape they have today. And to fund the massive rebuilding process, especially the reconstruction of 51 churches and the immortal symbol St. Paul's with its grand Baroque dome, the British government had to resort to an extreme measure: the coal tax. Every ton of coal imported into the Port of London was heavily taxed. This is a historical detail few notice. London's resurrection was directly funded on the backs of the impoverished working class. Common people, shivering in the freezing winter, had to pay a higher price to heat their own homes in order to contribute to building magnificent architectural structures for the elite. But from a macro perspective, this was exactly the formation of the public finance system, setting the stage for government debt and large-scale infrastructure investments. Now, let us use the power of counterfactual history. We will erase the spark of 1666. Thomas Fariner successfully extinguished his bakery oven. There is no rebuilding act of 1667 mandating that houses be built with brick and stone. There are no firefighting systems, no insurance, no widened roads with pavements. Let's turn the wheel of time straight to 1860, the peak of the Victorian Industrial Revolution. By this time, London is no longer a city of 500,000, it is a monstrous megacity with 3 million people crammed together. The 17th century wooden labyrinth hasn't disappeared, it has merely bloated uncontrollably. The ancient wooden houses have now accumulated tar and pitch not for a few decades, but for over 2 centuries. Moreover, the age of coal has coated every surface of the city with a thick, highly combustible layer of black coal dust. This is not just a tinderbox, it is a colossal ticking time bomb. Along the banks of the Thames are not empty docks, but giant industrial warehouses storing tens of thousands of tons of oil, turpentine, saltpeter, rubber, and cotton imported from all over the British Empire. Even worse, London in 1860 has gone underground. An early network of gas pipes runs along the streets to illuminate street lamps and factories. If a fire were to break out in 1860 in this chemical-filled port area, it would create a disaster beyond human imagination. Unlike in 1666, an 1860 fire would suck in massive amounts of fuel from industrial chemicals, causing horrifying chain explosions. Thousands of underground gas pipes would be superheated, pressures would spike and detonate, hurling entire streets into the air and turning the ground into an infernal crucible vomiting fire. Furthermore, the architectural symbol of England, the old St. Paul's Cathedral, which was already rickety and severely rotting since the early 17th century, would never have the chance to be replaced by Christopher Wren's sturdy domed masterpiece. Instead, in the horrifying heat of an industrial fire, its colossal Gothic tower would buckle, fracture, and collapse right onto the heads of praying civilians, extinguishing any hope of a miracle. And King Charles II, desperate measure from the past, using gunpowder to blow up rows of houses to stop the fire, would become an act of mass suicide in 1860. With a densely packed population of 3 million, detonating bombs in the middle of the city would cause casualties far greater than the devastating Nazi Blitz bombings in World War II. The entire center of power in Westminster, all the head offices governing a quarter of the globe for the British Empire, all the banks hoarding the world's gold and silver, everything would be completely wiped out in a sea of fire. Britain would lose its financial center, suffer a severe economic collapse, and world history would diverge onto a completely different branch, more underdeveloped, more stagnant, and much darker. The history of humanity always operates in paradoxical and ruthless ways. Evolution rarely begins from peaceful ideas in boardrooms, but rather blossoms from the ashes of utter despair. Economists call this creative destruction. The fire of 1666 is an undeniable tragedy, bringing ultimate agony to tens of thousands of families. But when viewed through the lens of long-term time, that disaster was the surgical scalpel that excised a dark tumor of the Middle Ages, forcing a stagnant society to step into the modern era. It cleared away conservatism, wiped out narrow-minded thinking, and made way for brick and stone, for global risk-sharing, and for timeless architectural pinnacles. If you find these historical counterfactual perspectives fascinating, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join us. Alternate timelines are not meant to deny the truth, but to help us better appreciate the steep price of our current world. What do you think? Are there any cities in the world today also harboring a hidden 1666 fire waiting to erupt? Leave your comments below. And if you want to discover how Paris or Berlin were reshaped by similarly bloody events, click on the video displayed on your screen. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next journeys of unearthing history.